Now I recognize Representative Lawler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, thank you for being here. I want to thank you for your leadership in getting Idan Alexander released last week. That is a big step forward. We still have 4 remaining American hostages being held, all of whom are deceased. I just continue to encourage you and the administration to continue to lead on that front to get them home. Last Congress, we passed legislation to create a special envoy for the Abraham Accords within the Department of State. The Biden administration refused to fill that position. I know we have the Middle East envoy, but I would ask, can you commit to bringing this forward to the president so that we can get this position filled?
Yes, that's in process.
Thank you very much. Obviously, the Abraham Accords was one of the most consequential foreign policy initiatives under the first Trump administration, and prior to October 7th, I think we were making progress, but since obviously it has somewhat stalled, how critical long-term for peace do you believe it is for Saudi Arabia to normalize relations with Israel, and where do you see that in the process?
Well, I think it would be a major development, one that I thought was moving in a positive direction until, as you said, October 7th. I think there's still a willingness to do it. Certain conditions are impediments, October 7th being one of them, but the Saudis have continued to express an interest, as have the Israelis, in reaching that agreement. In the meantime, we do have an Abraham Accords office that is actively working to identify a number of countries who have lined up and already, and I think we may have good news certainly before the end of this year, of a number of more countries that are willing to join that alliance. And the last point I would make is it's also critically important that we do all we can to live up to the commitments made on the part of the United States on behalf of the countries that previously joined the alliance, be it the UAE, which is part of the effort for this trip this weekend. It wasn't some of these other nefarious purposes, is to continue to strengthen the commitments that were made to the UAE as part of the Abraham Accords, but also Morocco and other countries such as this. So I think that this is important that we continue to build on it, but you start building by ensuring the countries that are already a part of it feel like our part of the bargain has been lived up to.
Agree. You were a very strong voice against the BDS movement when you were in the Senate. And as you know, there is a loophole in the current anti-boycott law that was signed by President Trump that allows intergovernmental organizations like the United Nations to pressure U.S. companies into supporting boycotts against U.S. allies like Israel. I have introduced the IGO Anti-Boycott Act to close that loophole and hold the United Nations to the same standard as foreign governments that is already in law. Would you support closing that loophole?
Well, again, like any legislation, I'd want to see it, but the concept you've just outlined is one that I think the administration will be very supportive of.
Appreciate it. I know my colleague, Mr. Moskowitz, touched on the Iran nuclear framework that is being negotiated. I think we can all agree that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon, and I know you and the administration are working to prevent that. So I appreciate your efforts on that.
Yeah, if I could respond.
Yeah.
Iran, while they claim to never want a nuclear weapon, if you ask them, they'd say, we're not interested in a nuclear weapon. We're just interested in enrichment. The problem is that if you can enrich at any level, 3.67 or whatever, you're 80% of the way there. All that requires now is a few months or weeks of time to get to the weapons grade. It makes them a threshold nuclear power. The Iranian position is they want civil nuclear energy. And if they want civil nuclear energy, meaning they want nuclear electricity for their country, nuclear generated electricity, there is a pathway to doing that. Multiple countries around the world do it without an enrichment capability. If, on the other hand, they want an enrichment capability, then that makes them a threshold nuclear weapons power, and that's an unacceptable outcome. And that's the reason why we have a problem with what they're doing now. And it's the reason why the president is imposing maximum pressure. Every single day, increasing number of sanctions are going on. And it's the reason, by the way, why the E3, the European three, are on the verge of instituting snapback sanction provisions against them by October of this year.
I want to thank you. When it comes to maximum pressure, last Congress, you and I led the SHIP Act. We passed that into law. And this administration has already taken significant steps to enforce this SHIP Act, as well as the Iran-China Energy Sanctions Act, to go after the financial institutions facilitating the trade. We previously, in a markup, passed the Enhanced Iran Sanctions Act to expand the authorities. Would you support that effort to continue to provide the administration with enhanced capabilities to crack down on this illicit oil trade?
Absolutely.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.